All right, got a whole new setup here today. Today, we are going to be talking about spoons. And that's gonna keep happening. All right, let's fix this. Just center of gravity. You know, damn it. This is the problem. Okay, it's going to. I'm not. All right, I want to talk today about spoons. Yeah, okay. This is where I'm ending up today. A weird old-fashioned lavalier mic. Okay, now we're ready. Got it all. I'm all set. Back to my old wired lavalier mic. We're gonna just dive right in. I wanna talk today about spoons, baby spoons in particular, and how you know when it's time to introduce a spoon, what kind of spoon you might want to introduce, depending on where your little one is in their eating journey, and what are some of the things you might want to consider when you're choosing a spoon. So today I am going off script. Oftentimes when I come in, I have a plan and I am ready and I've got it written out. I've got a bunch of notes here. And if you want to follow along on Kizingo's website, kizingokids.com, if you go to read and you scroll down to the expert guides and tips, you will find my guide to spoons. And everything we're going to talk about is in this free printable PDF guide that you can use and refer to later. So if you want to go get that right now, press pause, download this and follow along, you can. Otherwise, you can go check it out afterwards. I will drop a link to that in the chat below. But first, I want to say there is no right or wrong answer to this. A lot of it depends on where your little one is. Where is she in her development, in her skills, in her ability, and what are your goals for her? Start eating. So a few things, though, that I will say that are important milestones to consider before you start introducing a spoon. So the first one is that you've started solid feeding with your little one, right? A spoon is not going to be that first thing that you're giving them, so you've started this process of giving them solid foods. That's number one. Number two, little one is expressing interest in feeding him or herself. A lot of times they may be happy to just have you continue to spoon feed them or to use their hands, and that's fine. If they are starting to indicate, especially if you are using a spoon and you're feeding them and they are constantly grabbing for it, that is a really good indication that they are ready to at least have a spoon during that feeding process and perhaps even begin trying the process out themselves. Number three, you have already introduced finger food. And I don't necessarily mean the kind of food to develop just their little pincher grasp or any particular type of finger food, but you've given them opportunities to grab foods with their hands. That is a third milestone. That's a pretty good sign. You know, if you've done that, you might be ready for spoons. And the last one is that you have or want to start introducing foods that have different textures, in particular, thicker textures, or perhaps maybe thinner textures where a spoon would be useful. Think yogurt, think soup. I mean, a lot of other things, but those two come to mind at first. This is where using your hands, if that's what your little one's been doing up until now, is gonna be a little bit more messy, a little bit more challenging, and a spoon might be useful. If you have printed this PDF or intend to later, I will let you know that inside there is a 5-question quiz. And this quiz is meant to help guide you to a single score that will help you understand where you are potentially in the spoon feeding journey and whether or not you would like to focus on spoons that are for those early stage feeders versus those feeders that have a little bit more experience. So these 5 questions, I won't go through them here because it doesn't really work well in this format, but you can go through the questions and answer them. Super simple, and get your final score. And if it is 8 or less, if it was less than 8, I would suggest that you start with one of our early feeders, and I'll talk about all of those various options in just a moment. And if it's 8 or more, then I think you may be ready for the next stage of feeding utensils. So let's talk about those first feeders. And these may be, again, these are spoons, utensils that if your little one is still in those early stages of self-feeding, you may want to focus on these. The first kind of spoon is a dipper. Example of this is the Num Num. or Baby Dipper or Chew Me. These brands all, at least at the time of filming, these brands all have what is called a dipper. The key features of these and the benefit of these is that there is no right or wrong way to hold them. Baby basically takes the spoon, dips it into whatever it is that they're eating, and the food kind of clings to it, and into the mouth it goes. It is not for a baby who is looking to scoop anything. You really just kind of dip it in. The second is kind of a cross between a feeder and a teether. So these tend to be a very soft, think silicone material, or at least coated in silicone. Again, they look maybe more like a teether than they do like a spoon, although Easy Peasy is a brand that has one that is one of these very early stage feeders, and it has a spoon shape. Ola Baby has one, it's like a leaf. It's beautiful to look at. Looks more like a teether than it does like a spoon maybe. The benefit of these is that they're made of a material that is intended for your baby to chew on them. So if your baby is still in that chewing rather than actually scooping and eating phase, this would be great for them. And they often have shorter handles, which makes it easier for little ones to hold and manipulate. All right. The next, again, if your score was less than 8, the next kind of spoon you might consider I actually do have, and these are crossover spoons. These are going to be spoons that have longer handles, so they can either be spoons that you give baby to eat with and to use, or they're spoons that you use for feeding baby. I thought someone was knocking. This is one, looks like a little train, you know, choo-choo, here comes the train. A little gimmicky, in my opinion, but some babies might really like that. So again, key features of spoons like this, they have really long handles, so parents can use them and kind of get them, you know, close to babies' mouths. Many of them have really small heads. This one is pretty small too, although it's bigger, you know, than the Munchkin. And that can help you identify appropriate portion sizes for your little one. The con to something like this is really not ideal for your baby to hold and feed themselves. You'll notice when your baby starts eating, they like to hold palm down like this, and they will tend to hold way at the back of the spoon. And that means that the spoon, you know, it's doing a lot like this. They have a lot less control with long handles like this. So this really is a better spoon. It's better design if you are wanting to be a part of feeding still. If you find that you're using a long spoon like this though, and baby is constantly grabbing at it and wants to have one herself, give her one to hold while you are also holding one and feeding. And that will distract her and she'll feel like she's a part of mealtime. So that is a way that you can use these long-handled crossover spoons. Okay, if you take this quiz and your score is 8 or more, then we can take the next stage up in utensils. And you might be ready for the next level of spoons, or your little one might be ready for the next level of spoons. So the first group, there are 3 groups I'm going to talk about here. The first group in this next level of spoons I call traditional but smaller, and it would be something like this. Oop. This one happens to be made by Nook. All kinds of brands make them. None of these are affiliated links, by the way. I make no money if you buy these brands, and really, frankly, I am brand agnostic when it comes to these. This just happens to be one that I have. So this is a traditional but smaller spoon. So you can tell it's straight handled just like ours are. This one happens to have a metal bowl and an overlay. This is plastic overlay spoon. One of the nice things about this kind of spoon is that wide handle. Again, with babies' motor development, wider handles are easier for them to hold on to than really narrow handles. Something like this Nook brand, which really this is more meant for mom and dad to be feeding baby. So this wide handle makes it easier for them to hold on to. The shorter handle also, as I was describing earlier, makes it easy for your baby to hold and manage. They are going to hold it palm down. And in doing so, with these shorter handles, the spoon is closer to their hand, the shorter that handle is. And that means they have more control when they're feeding themselves. That's all I've got for this one. Next up are more ergonomically shaped spoons. This just so happens to be where I get to talk about Kizingo. Kizingo is a company that I founded, and I designed these spoons very specifically to make it easier for kids to hold and use when they're feeding themselves. So this is a Kizingo spoon. Looks very odd, frankly, especially when you're comparing it to this one. So the purpose of these spoons, really, it's threefold. One, it has a short, wide handle, right? So it's easier for baby to hold. It also is curved off of a straight plane. And that means that when baby scoops, the food is already in the position they need to be able to feed themselves more successfully without that food falling off of their spoon. When they are using a traditional straight-handled spoon like this and baby is holding and scooping, because of their motor development, they are often tipping food to bring it to their mouth, or they are turning at a really weird, maybe if I go like this, they're gonna scoop and then they're gonna turn, and it's just a little bit awkward. What they love to do is use their hands because it can go straight from the plate or the bowl or the high chair counter or the table to their mouths. So much easier for them to manage. And with these spoons curved in the position that they are, it puts the food right into the position they need to just be able to make that same motion that they would with their hands. One of the cons of these spoons, of course, is that it is handed. This is designed for a right-handed eater. We do have left-handed spoons, however, for your little lefty that also puts the food in the position the baby needs to be able to feed themselves. This means you need to decide whether your baby is right or left-handed, and we don't always know that, and we don't sell them actually in packs of left and right together. But if you email me, my email is everywhere, I will send you one pack or the other when you buy one. So don't let that be a deterrent for you. All right, so what are the pros of a spoon like this? Well, it's ergonomically shaped, and it is designed very specifically to make it easier for baby to feed themselves, again, so that you don't have to, and they can continue listening to their internal signals of fullness. One of the cons of this spoon is that it does take a little getting used to, and it does take some education, both on the parent's part as well as the baby's part. Sometimes people have not seen this setting on the table like this, in which case it's a little bit more intuitive for how to pick it up, and it's kind of laying, and people will pick it up and they think that this is the bowl of the spoon, and it's not. But that's okay. All right, Kizingo is one brand that has ergonomic spoons. We are absolutely not the only one. There are other brands out there that make slightly altered shapes that are designed to make it easier for baby to feed themselves. Okay, this is another one that I don't have an example of in front of me, so I can't pick it up and show you. That is a kind of spoon, another spoon that has a very unique or distinct shape. A lot of these have just a ball at the end, so it'll be like a spoon handle and then a ball, or a really short handle. I'm thinking of the brands Dawdle, iCan, Grab Ease. These companies all make very uniquely shaped spoons. These other kinds of uniquely shaped spoons encourage different finger placement or don't require finger placement. And that's just a benefit of those. One of the downsides to spoons like that, however, is that it can be difficult for kids who may have development or muscle issues, and sometimes they're difficult to orient which way, baby should be holding them. Okay. So I do have some bad news, but also some good news. And since I am a bad news first kind of person, here it is. There is no single spoon that is going to help your baby become a confident, a comfortable, and successful eater. There isn't. But here's the good news. There is no single spoon that is going to make your baby become a confident, comfortable, successful eater. See what I just did there? Seriously. That is good news, because it means there is not one right tool. There is no single spoon that is going to make your baby become a successful eater, because there are loads of them. And because each kid develops a little bit differently, different spoons might work differently for different kids. And so you don't have to worry about choosing the right one, you just have to be willing to experiment with different ones. So here are some of my final tips for selecting a spoon. First, go and grab that free PDF. Again, it's linked below. Have a look at it. it provides lots of visuals as well as all the information I've shared here. It can be really helpful when you're thinking about a spoon. I also provide direct links, assuming that they still work, and those are not affiliate links. I don't make any money off of that. They're just there for reference. Okay, tip number 1, experiment. I know this may seem a little bit costly. You know, if you want to try a Kizingo spoon, email me. I will send you one. You're unlikely to find the perfect spoon, especially the first time. So try a couple of different kinds of spoons and see how your individual child responds to them. Tip number 2, or I guess technically number 3, is to be patient. Remember, as I have said over and over and over and over and over and over again, this is a long process and it takes patience to find what will work for you and for your little one. So be patient through this process. Even though you are giving your child the tools they need to be able to feed themselves, it's still going to be slow, it's still going to be messy. It just is, right? Tip number 4, allow your child's needs to change. These spoons are not going to work consistently from the moment they start using a spoon until the moment they are ready to graduate to, you know, the spoons that we use at the dinner table, the soup spoons and teaspoons that we're using. Their development, their motor skills will change. The ways that they are holding things and practicing holding things, their fine and gross motor skills will change, and we need to allow the tools we're giving them to change as they do. So give them practice with different types of spoons, different orientations, different sizes, different shapes, again, and let those change as your baby does. And finally, in case I haven't said it already, embrace the mess. Understand it will be there sometimes more than others, and try to have fun with this process. That's what I've got for you today. Spoons, all things spoons. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, check out all the links below and have fun.